It had been a busy day. Katie discovered that when the sun sets, it paints the trees in the backyard orange. Orbie found out that sometimes the moon comes up before the sun has finished its day. And they both learned that having an outdoor barbecue with garden candles makes the backyard a magical, mysterious place. Dad had just finished a made-to-order story about the black and yellow snorting hippopotamus. Katie and Orbie laughed so hard that Mom peeked in to see if they were okay. Orbie snorted like the hippo, and everybody broke into laughter. Mom told them that because Yi Ping's parents were coming over to watch some movies that night, they could read for a few extra minutes. Both Katie and Orbie loved books, so they grabbed their favorites. The doorbell rang, Mom blew goodnight kisses, and hurried down the stairs. Dad kissed Katie and Orbie and walked like the silly hippo all the way out of the room. Katie and Orbie opened their books. Orbie whispered that he wondered if it was a movie about the snorting hippo. Well, Katie couldn't help it. She broke out into laughter. Orbie laughed too, and I have to say that it took a while for them to stop. Every time they started slowing down, Orbie would snort like the hippo, and they would start again. Katie sat up in her bed and asked Orbie to please stop snorting because her side was aching from laughing so much. Orbie told her he would only do it one more time and was revving up for a big snort when all of a sudden, the lights went out. All the lights on the top floor of their house were suddenly gone. For a moment, neither Katie or Orbie moved. Then together they called for Mom, and they waited quietly for her to call back, but all they could hear was the movie and everyone laughing. Katie and Orbie called again, but still no answer. Then they called for Dad, but it was pretty obvious that they couldn't be heard over the sound of the movie. Katie, who could feel very afraid in the dark, started to whimper just a bit. Orbie slid off his hanger. When the hangers clanked together in the closet, Katie was sure it was something spooky. Orbie told her it was the hangers. Katie tried hard not to be afraid, but the thing about afraid was that sometimes, even if you didn't want to feel it, the feeling came anyway. The room was so dark, Katie couldn't see Orbie, and he couldn't see her. But I'm very proud to tell you that even though Orbie was afraid, he pretended to be brave. He could tell Katie needed someone to be brave for her, and he was doing it well until he tripped over a racing car and fell onto a squeaky toy. Again, Katie was sure it was something spooky. Tears of fear began to roll down her cheeks. Orbie crawled over to her bed, burbling that it was just him. He even added a hippo snort to make her laugh, and for a second, Katie did laugh, but then, in the dark, she felt something tugging on her blanket. She jumped up on her pillow and called Dad again. Orbie tooted that it was only him. He was at the foot of her bed. Now, Orbie felt afraid, but he knew Katie was more afraid than he was, so he told Katie they'd play a game of follow the leader. Katie thought it was too dark, but Orbie told her if she put her hands on his shoulders, the dark wouldn't matter so much. Together, they headed for the door. Just then, there was a huge noise. It sounded like the earth was opening up and Katie and Orbie were going to disappear right into it. Then they heard all kinds of laughter from downstairs. Orbie tooted that it was only the movie. Katie sniffed as the two friends inched forward. She wondered why Mom and Dad didn't race up to help them. Orbie stopped and hugged Katie. He burbled very softly that they couldn't hear their call. They didn't know what had happened. Then he told Katie to hang on again, and Orbie burbled that her job was to relax and have fun. His was to worry. All she had to do was follow him, and they'd be fine. He was going to get them downstairs to Mom and Dad. Katie told Orbie he was very brave. Orbie wasn't brave at all, but he was pretending for his very best friend. When they finally got to the door and opened it, they saw the hall light wasn't working either. Katie gasped. But Orbie could hear that the movie was a bit louder, and he knew that they were going to make it down to Mom and Dad. Then Katie pointed out an interesting thing. She showed Orbie how the moon was trying to help them. The moonlight was streaming through the window, over the chest, and lighting up the hall. Now they could see the stairs. Downstairs, it was dark. The flashes of light from the movie showed Katie and Orbie where they had to go. As they tiptoed to the top of the stairs, the sound of the movie suddenly got very quiet. Katie shouted for Mom and Dad. Orbie tooted with her, and in seconds, Mom and Dad and Yi Ping's parents were all looking up at them from the bottom of the stairs. Mom asked what was wrong, and Dad asked why it was so dark upstairs. Then, at the same moment, all the adults said, "A fuse!" Katie and Orbie didn't know what that was and looked behind them. Everyone else except Mom and Yi Ping's mom raced toward the basement. Mom made some hot milk, and as they sipped it, Katie told her how brave Orbie was. Mom was very proud indeed. Orbie confessed that, in fact, he was afraid too, but he pretended to be brave for Katie. Mom told Orbie that was exactly what brave was. Dad and Yi Ping's father came up the stairs. Dad told Katie and Orbie the lights were working again because they'd fixed the fuse. A fuse was something the lights needed to keep working. Well, soon the two friends were happily asleep. The next day, Dad bought a sun-powered flashlight and placed it in their window. If the lights ever went out again, they would have a flashlight right in their room. And you know, the next time the lights went out, both Katie and Orbie were brave and used their flashlight to find Mom and Dad. I hope if you ever end up in the dark, you'll be able to pretend to be brave, just like Orbie. I happen to know that if you do, you will be amazing at it.